Imagine losing $750,000, not because of a market crash or a bad decision, simply because you waited 10 years to invest. That's not a hypothetical scenario, it's the hidden cost of delay. A 10-year pause secretly devours a fortune, and the staggering reality is, 80% of Americans are making this mistake at this very moment, letting time silently erase their wealth right now. Welcome to Finance Channel, where we unpack the psychology behind your money decisions. The studies, the patterns, the quiet traps. If you've ever wondered why you do what you do with money, you're in the right place. If you're among the 80% of Americans leaving massive wealth on the table, it's not a character flaw, it's a cognitive blind spot. Your brain sees time passing in a straight line, so the cost of waiting a year feels trivial. The math, however, is brutal, and this bias, it affects nearly everyone. Take two friends, both earning $50,000 a year. One starts investing $200 a month at 25, the other waits until 35. By retirement, the early starter has $1.15 million. The procrastinator, just $380,000, same total contributions. But a 10-year delay erased over $750,000. You know you should invest. You've read the articles, maybe even researched index funds, opened a tab you never closed. But then life gets busy, and you tell yourself, I'll start next month, once things settle down. That isn't laziness, it's a near-universal cognitive glitch, and it has a name. Here's the script your brain runs. I don't have enough spare cash yet. I should really learn more before diving in. The market feels overvalued right now. On the surface, these are prudent, cautious thoughts, but stacked together over months and years, they become a fortress. Your money stays in linear, safe mode, while time compounds exponentially in the background, and the cost of that delay is invisible until it's massive. The scary part is, a year of delay rarely feels like 12 months. It collapses into a season, just a few calendar pages, then another. You plan to invest, but next month turns into next year, and the loop quietly swallows 5 years from your compounding window. You tell yourself you'll start next quarter, then next raise, then when life calms down. The brutal truth? You never felt the delay. It didn't arrive as 365 missed days. It came disguised as a job change, a wedding, 2 summers that blurred together. Suddenly, you're 35, then 40, staring at an empty brokerage account while the calendar kept flipping on fast forward. Your money never left the starting line, and time didn't wait. Here's the liberating truth: you are not broken. Your brain evolved to spot a predator, not to project compound interest. It runs on ancient linear software because our ancestors rarely encountered exponential change. The wiring that kept them alive simply wasn't built for multiplying wealth. That's biology, not a personal failing. Psychologists call this exponential growth bias, your systematic tendency to underestimate future values when growth is proportional to the current amount. Pioneering researchers like Wagoner, and later Kahneman and Tversky, showed through repeated experiments that your default mental forecast isn't a curve, it's a straight line. You linearize compound interest, causing you to underestimate final balances by up to 70%. Imagine a magic penny that doubles in value every day. After 30 days, what's it worth? Most people guess a few $1,000s. The real number? Over $5 million. Your brain sees day 29 at $2.6 million and still refuses to accept the final leap. That's the bias, your linear intuition profoundly underestimating the sheer violence of compounding. That same explosive final stretch plays out in your retirement account. Invest $200 a month at a 7% average return. The first 30 years build a solid base. But the last 10 years before retirement can double or even triple the total. Delay, and you miss that exponential sprint entirely. For 300,000 years, your brain counted things linearly. Berries gathered per hour, miles walked per day. That straight-line math kept you alive. Exponential growth, compound interest, viral spread, technological leaps is a fleeting blip in our evolutionary timeline. Your mind never faced selection pressure to build circuits for it, so you instinctively flatten curves that are bending sharply upward. In lab studies, participants watched a value double again and again. Then came the test. Predict where it goes next. Time after time, they drew almost perfectly straight lines, even after seeing the exponential curve with their own eyes. This isn't a failure of knowledge. It's your brain's default heuristic, overriding observed data to keep your predictions stubbornly linear. Your brain craves simplicity. It anchors on the early, slow growth, the flat part of the curve, because that feels safe and measurable. So you unconsciously extend that gentle slope forward, ignoring that in exponential systems the steepening never stops. You're judging a jet by its taxi speed on the runway, missing the moment it leaves the ground. But there's another bias at work: emotional time discounting. Your brain treats your future self almost like a stranger. Neuroimaging shows that when you think about you at 65, your brain lights up as if you're considering someone else. That makes sacrificing today feel intensely real, while the future reward stays abstract and weightless. This emotional disconnect quietly robs you of urgency. But here's the cruel twist. You might assume that knowing the math protects you. It doesn't. In fact, studies reveal that financial literacy only modestly reduces exponential growth bias. Even professional investors and math teachers drastically underestimate how money compounds over long time horizons. Awareness doesn't automatically vaccinate your intuition, and that's what makes this cognitive blind spot so dangerous. Here's the gut punch. In a 40-year investing journey, over half of your total wealth is generated in the final decade. Not the first 10, not the middle. The last 10 years create more than everything before them combined. So a delay doesn't just trim the edge, it steals the entire compounding engine. You're not missing years, you're missing the years that matter most. Let's look at the math one more time. The early starter contributed $96,000 total over 40 years and ended with $1.15 million. The late starter contributed $72,000 over 30 years and finished with just $380,000. The $24,000 difference in contributions explains almost nothing. The real culprit is the missing decade, the one where compounding makes its most aggressive moves, and the one you can never get back. Imagine compound interest as a snowball rolling downhill. Start packing at 25, and by 35 it's already a boulder, gathering mass effortlessly. But wait until 35 and you're still cupping that first handful of snow, while decades of untouched slope vanish behind you. You never reclaim the mountain you missed. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot out-earn a missing decade. Maybe you plan to triple your savings once your salary peaks at 45. The math doesn't care. You're shoveling cash into a vessel that already lost its exponential multiplier. The gap grows faster than your paychecks ever will. Linear effort can't fill an exponential hole. That whisper telling you next year isn't harmless procrastination. It's a quiet thief. It steals the retirement cottage with the wraparound porch. The leverage to walk away from a toxic job at 55. The freedom to send your kids into adulthood debt-free. That $750,000 gap isn't a spreadsheet error. It's decades of life you never get to live on your own terms. The antidote starts with a psychological shift. Studies show that simply seeing an aged avatar of yourself makes you allocate more to retirement. Your brain needs to feel that your future self is real and worth caring for. Try writing a letter from your 65-year-old self to you right now, or keep a digitally aged photo where you'll see it daily. Your brain needs to see the curve to trust it, so give it one. Each month, update one number, your projected retirement value based on what you've saved. Watch the slope steepen. Plot that growth physically. The visual feedback trains your intuition. Suddenly, exponential growth isn't just math, it's something you can see and start to believe. The surest way to beat a bias isn't to fight it, it's to make the choice once, then make it disappear. Set up an automatic transfer that invests the moment your paycheck lands. When the money never sits in your checking account, you don't see it, so you don't negotiate with it. Your linear brain can't sabotage what it can't touch. Start so small it feels absurd. $15 a week, the price of 2 streaming subscriptions, invested at 7% for 30 years, becomes over $80,000. The exponential growth bias tricks you into thinking small amounts don't matter, but exponentials feed on consistency, not size. The first dollar is the hardest, the rest just follow. The thought of opening an account feels huge, so shrink the task. When your brain says later, bargain for 10 minutes, set a timer. Open the app, type your name and address. When the alarm sounds, you can walk away, but you won't want to. The wall was only in your head. Forward motion feels good, and you'll finish what you started. The first step is the only one that requires courage. Here's where insight becomes action. In the comments below, tell us, what's one tiny step you can take this week to close your own delay gap? Maybe it's opening an account, setting a calendar reminder, or finally Googling low-cost index funds. Naming it makes it real, and your commitment might just inspire someone else to do the same. If you're 40 and feel you've missed the boat, hear this. A 42-year-old who starts investing $500 a month at 7% can still accumulate over $400,000 by 65. It's not the million-dollar dream, but it's freedom money, the difference between Social Security survival and a dignified, independent retirement. Time is still on your side. The secret isn't budgeting, it's reframing what you're actually buying. Every $200 you invest buys you a day of freedom at 60. You aren't skipping lattes, you're purchasing mornings without an alarm clock, afternoons with your family. The power to leave a job that no longer respects you. That's the real ROI. Not a line on a brokerage statement, but time that belongs to you. That same miscalculation follows you off the spreadsheet. You skip today's workout because one session feels trivial. But fitness isn't built in a day. It's the compound interest of consistent effort. The book you don't read, the skill you don't practice, the apology left unspoken. Each small neglect compounds into a version of yourself you never chose. This isn't just about money. It's about everything that grows when you show up. 20 pages a day. It feels trivial, but that's 30 books a year. Over a decade, 300 books on one subject, a depth rivaling a PhD. The difference between amateur and expert is rarely talent. It's the willingness to let consistent, invisible growth curve upward for years. The math that builds wealth also builds mastery. Now apply that to relationships. A daily question, "How was your day?" asked with genuine curiosity. It's a tiny deposit, but compounded over years, it builds a bedrock of trust that survives any crisis. One skipped evening is a linear loss. Chronic neglect compounds into emotional bankruptcy. The same math builds wealth or destroys love. Your biggest outcomes will never come from dramatic moves. They come from the tiny, repeated choices you make when the curve is still flat. Your brain, stuck in linear time, demands to see the bend now. It can't, so you quit in the quiet, unremarkable part, the exact spot where compounding finally tips vertical and separates wealth from regret. The wealthiest people on earth don't just buy stocks, they buy time. They delegate ruthlessly, automate obsessively, and eliminate every low-leverage decision that taxes their mind. Why? Because every cognitive slot freed lets their assets compound uninterruptedly. True wealth isn't a figure on a screen, it's sovereign control over your minutes, and that sovereignty begins the instant you stop letting a linear brain delay an exponential clock. So we return to the two friends, now in their 60s. One opened an account in her 20s with a few clicks, and now she owns her time. The other kept waiting, planning to catch up, but now faces a smaller, tighter future. The gap between them wasn't talent, luck, or income. It was a decade and a failure to respect the curve. The bias won't vanish overnight. Tomorrow morning, your brain will still whisper next year, but now you know that voice is a liar, wearing a reasonable mask. So sit with this. What will your future self wish you had started today? And what is the cost of not listening? If this shifted something in how you see time and money, you'll find more on this channel, where we decode the hidden psychology shaping your financial life. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss what your brain has been missing. Until next time, give your future self a seat at the table. If this gave you a new lens on your own money behavior, consider subscribing. There's a new one every Tuesday and Friday. Share it with someone you'd want to talk this through with. And as always, the work isn't in earning more, it's in understanding why you spend the way you do.